Good evening and welcome to American Advocates. I forgot what episode number this is, probably episode 29 or 30. I need to start keeping better track of that, but welcome. I see Glenn's in the chat already. Good, that's good. Get ready to ban possible swine in the chats. Cattle is allowed, swine is prohibited, Glenn. This is going to be a quick stream because I'm exhausted, to be frank. I've gotten 4 hours of sleep 2 nights in a row, and it really caught up with me today. I am dead tired. I almost didn't want to go live. But there's just so much to talk about, and I do want to discuss a couple of topics and talking points here when it comes to the truth behind the Iran war and the Trump administration. Swine spammers, bye-bye. Yes, correct. I want to discuss some truths here and what Americans might be missing when it comes to what's going on with President Donald Trump, his administration, Iran, what Americans and MAGA especially is willfully, in some cases, overlooking in all honesty. Now, first and foremost, I want to hit the news just a little bit here and go over some of the latest news today that's, I think, centered and related to this topic. First and foremost, of course, it's Trump's latest net approval rating, which is now at negative 19, down 0.6 points since last week, with just 38% of people approving, 58% disapprove, and 4% not sure. This was last updated, of course, today, March 3rd. His approval rating right now currently is lower than what Biden's was at around the same time during Biden's presidency, and this war is not going to be helping it. Now, of course, President Donald Trump, according to the New York Post, has already flat out stated that he does not care about the polls. He will continue to do what he's doing when it comes to this Iran war, and he doesn't care what the polls will reflect on that. He has stated that directly to the New York Post. So it's not by any means going to deter him anymore. He is kind of an image-based president in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's funny and useful, but sometimes it's also detrimental to him. I've discussed at length before how I feel like he is too media-oriented, especially old-school mainstream media-oriented, which was never going to side with Trump on anything at all. But what we're seeing now is a sad difference in the media and how they report on Trump as opposed to this time last year. Last year, when I was watching mainstream media and the news, it was very obvious that they were essentially just gaslighting the viewers and kind of telling half-baked lies and half-baked truths in their titles about what President Donald Trump was doing. Right now, currently, especially regarding this Iran war, these media companies don't really need to do that anymore. They just need to simplify the message, which they tend to be doing actually, and their titles don't even need to be misleading to make Trump look bad or unfavorable to most Americans, because at the end of the day, a lot of real polls that I'm looking at show that most Americans are not in approval of a war like this. Now, of course, the MAGA supporters, and bear in mind, of course, I did vote for Trump, but I am by no means MAGA, certainly not at this point at all. MAGA started off as a coalition. It is now it's definitely become a cult for some people, at least. And so some MAGA people are willfully allowing themselves to be gaslit into what this Iran war is all about, of course. And so they're going along with the program, and you're hearing all kinds of nonsense, in all honesty. You know, I've made this comparison before. Biden was in office in 2022. Inflation was shooting up to 9.1%. The Biden presidency and administration didn't like that. They didn't like being associated with the 9.1% inflation. So what did they do? They changed the definition of what inflation was. What is this Trump administration doing? Well, they've changed the definition, truthfully, of what war is. And there's multiple different ways to explain this to you. But essentially, another comparison you could make, abortion. Is it a baby or a clump of cells? It depends on which side of the aisle you ask. Apparently, what we're doing here right now is not war, according to many MAGA people. But I'll frame it to you like this. If your definition of war isn't us going to Iran and striking them with missiles all over their main city of Tehran, then I guess 9/11 wasn't an act of war either then, was it? And that's the kind of talking point right there that gets most MAGA people really putting up a hissy fit, bitching and moaning and crying and whining. But that's truthfully what this is. We were struck on 9/11. We went to war. Iran was struck by us. They're going to war. This is a war. Certainly, Iran is viewing it as such. And the reason why this Trump administration is avoiding the term war, truthfully, is because the president is not allowed to wage a war without congressional approval. And I'm not one of those people that's uneducated here. I'm not here to tell you that Trump has waged an illegal war, but I am here to remind people that Trump very likely could be staring down the barrel of impeachments, especially if midterms don't go well for him, because the Democrats will be looking for any way possible to impeach him. They're thirsty to impeach him, and they're going to try multiple different avenues to do so. This now will be one of those avenues added to the list because it is debatable. It is debatable whether or not this is an illegal war or not. It really will depend on how it plays out. And so what you've been seeing, I got something in my eye, shit. What you've been seeing is this administration, the messaging bouncing back and forth. Some of them are calling it a war, like Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He's referred to it as a war multiple times. I believe Speaker Mike Johnson called it a war. I believe, what's his name? Marco Rubio. I believe he also referred to it as a war. On the other hand, you now have other GOP members here who have gotten a little bit wise to that. Mark Wayne Mullen trying to go on CNN and say, well, this is not a war, right? CNN, of course, promptly calling him out and saying, well, the Secretary of War himself called it a war. So there's a lot of mixed messaging going on in this Trump administration, mainly because they've never been all that organized, if we're being honest with ourselves here. After I voted for Trump, I started paying attention to his cabinet picks, his administration, and I tried to stay optimistic. On this channel, I called it all along that Pam Bondi would be a stupid bitch who accomplishes nothing. Turned out to be correct there. I've also predicted a couple of other things like John Thune being an absolute rhino traitor. I think a lot of Republicans saw through that one. And this administration just isn't organized. And so it's a war for some of them. It's not a war for others. They're going back and forth on the terminology. And really the reason why that's happening is because they're worried about impeachment trials. I'll get to that more just a little bit later, though, because that's part of what MAGA and Americans in general aren't noticing when it comes to this Iran war. They're not noticing all of these details. They're not realizing what's formulating behind the scenes now, especially here domestically in this country. But what I did want to update us on as well here is the U.S. has now officially named 4 out of 6 service members who were struck in a drone strike by Iran to be killed. A captain, 2 staff sergeants, and another soldier unfortunately died in this drone strike. And so officially, I do think it's fair to say and side with Megyn Kelly on this one that American lives have now been lost for Israel. And I don't care how offensive people find that, that is the truth. This war benefits Israel the most and not so much really Americans at all, especially not the ones that might be in this chat, like the everyday average American, very likely will not benefit from this. Though there is a chance we see a positive benefit from this. I heard a comparison today as far as what this war, what this strike, I should say, is being chalked up to, kind of the equivalent of a half-court shot on a basketball court. Pastor Joel Webbin, I think, was the one I was listening to. I've been listening to a lot of people today. I believe he was the one that made the comparison. I agree with that. There's a chance the ball goes in, right? Either way, this is a slam dunk for Israel. For us, it's a half court shot. There's like a 10% chance the ball goes in, and then if that's the case, and we do reap some benefits from this, and all is right in the world again, then unfortunately, at least in the short and midterm, you're going to have to live with the Mark Levins of the world, the Ben Shapiros of the world, the pro-MAGA, super MAGA cheerleaders of the world, the cultists in the MAGA group, saying, oh, I told you so, you're a panicking. We all know what regime change accomplishes, which is essentially nothing. Unfortunately, sometimes it actually takes a little bit of time for that to be revealed. And with Iran, there's already a historical precedent here. Iran was liberated in the 1950s. And the fact of the matter is, you can see all the photos of the late 60s, early 70s Iran where the women are essentially looking like our modern day women here in America do. They're wearing bikinis, they're at the beach, they seem to be living life. But it got to a point where their society was so, I guess, degenerate, you'd call it, that many of them started begging for law and order. It's kind of actually eerily similar to how America seems to be turning, the direction America seems to be going down here, where law and order is just not being enforced, neither by this Trump administration nor by any possible future Democrat administration, which we all know to be true. There is no justice. The Epstein files have proven that. It's a two-tier justice system. And there really is no law and order, no meaningful law and order. Pam Bondi's not delivering it for us. There are no deep state arrests. Still, over a year in now, we're in March. Pam Bondi was appointed last February. No deep state arrests, and they're not coming. And so there's no law and order, and it reminds me of America. But that's what happened in Iran. And so what happened? Within one generation after the 1950s liberation, they fell right back into the what is now the Iranian regime, and extreme Islam returned to the country, or took over the country, I should say. And so that's what it is. That's what liberation and regime change will lead to inevitably. Unfortunately, and it's not unfortunate because, yes, God bless the Persian people that live there if they're liberated. God bless them. Maybe they get a few years of freedom. It's not even going to look like it's turning out that way, though. I'm going to report on that in a second here. But that is what regime change leads to. And we have all kinds of historical precedents that prove this. Every time we've meddled in the Middle East, every time we've occupied one of those countries, protected it, we've trained up soldiers in some of these countries. We've trained up their own militaries to be able to defend themselves for when we inevitably have to pull out. And what we've seen is every time we pull out, within months, they surrender, and the Muslim extremists return to the country, and they seize control of power, and they reestablish everything that we were fighting against in there at our own expense and at the cost of American blood. And that's really the problem with regime change and why it's not popular with so many Americans right now, especially young Americans. Now, if you're a boomer slop-eating machine, then you love this because you're programmed to honestly just love the idea of Muslims dying. And I am not a Muslim sympathizer on this channel by any means, so I'm not here to weep the death of the Iranian regime or Ali Khamenei whatsoever, right? But the generational divide that we're witnessing here is very eye-opening as well, and young Americans are not bound to like this at all. Our economy's already not doing well here if you're an American. Our cost of living's not great. We're in an affordability crisis, and the fact of the matter is, will I wake up around this time next year to 64 cent per gallon gas because of us meddling in Iran and possibly taking oil? It's so unlikely. It's just not likely to benefit us. Now, what I want to move on to with some news here. This I found interesting as well, because this is also very revealing here. Now Iran is striking back, right? Iran is striking back. They've been striking back. They're using drones. They're still launching missiles, ballistic missiles. And so Iran is striking back. And this administration, unfortunately, what it seems to be the case to me is this Trump administration was very likely forced into striking Iran because Israel was going to force our hands. Marco Rubio technically admitted that without really saying it. Marco's definitely playing a political game here, in my opinion. And I covered that on yesterday's episode, of course. Excuse me. And so Marco, by his own admission, and including Speaker Mike Johnson, who would also go on later on to say kind of the same thing, they both kind of acknowledged this is being done on Israel's behalf. And Marco Rubio went as far as to say that Israel was going to strike Iran, which of course would create a retaliation from Iran. And as Americans and with our military, we don't ever want to be on the receiving end of a first strike. So we decided we needed to strike first. This is what's been taking place. And so Israel definitely seems to have forced our hand on this, or at least on doing it sooner than we'd like to, or whatever. Now what we're seeing is Iran is striking back, and there's this article from Newsweek right here, U.S. Embassy saying it can't evacuate Americans in Israel, sparking fury. And this is a very interesting read because it both shows a level of unpreparedness by this Trump administration and poor planning, in my opinion. And it also kind of shows, once again, the Israelis' attitude towards Americans as well, because they really do kind of guide us into these situations, right? It's all a setup. It's, oh, please help us. We can't defend ourselves after we've struck these countries and after we've agitated the entire region. Please help us, America. Okay, no problem, Israel. We send 50% of our Navy there. Then we go and we say, hey, our Navy's in your waters now. Why is your Navy in your own waters? That's a threat to us. That's a problem, Iran. And then we also say, hey, we don't like that you have all these ballistic missiles, Iran. We don't like that you as a country have a means of protecting yourself. Marco Rubio himself literally stated one of the reasons they did what they did was because they determined that if Iran was struck in an attack, that they would strike back. So I covered this yesterday. The logic is absurd, right? It's literal arrogance. And I'm a proud American nationalist. So there's always a side of me that loves to watch our military flexing. I do objectively think it's pretty cool that if somebody says something bad about America, like Ali Khamenei, he can just die. We can just literally fuck him up and kill him. Like, I'm never going to complain about that technically from an objective standpoint. But looking at it objectively as a whole, the picture as a whole, like I was discussing yesterday, you have to understand how unreasonable of a request this was towards a country. Set aside your feelings for the Iranian disgusting regime. We can all acknowledge that. What we were asking and doing was essentially moving 50% of our Navy to the Persian Gulf, then telling Iran, because our Navy was there now, their Navy's now a threat to us. Our Navy's in their waters. Then we go to Iran and we also say, hey, we understand that Israel's an agitator. We understand that there's other countries around you that could be potential enemies in the future, but by no means will we allow you to have nuclear warheads. On top of that, your ballistic missiles, which are kind of standard, standard equipment nowadays, a lot of countries have them. You shouldn't have those. You need to decommission those ASAP. This will leave, of course, Iran sitting ducks. They're kind of defenseless at this point. This was our request, and essentially the terms were you either make sure your Navy's not a threat to our Navy, which is sitting in your waters, and you decommission your own defensive methods via ballistic missiles, your counter-striking ability, or we're just going to kill all of you. And like I said, objectively, 10 to 25% of me thinks that's objectively cool. We are America. Nobody can fuck with us. We can literally kill anybody in this world. All of the world leaders should take note of that. I like that to some extent. But 75% of me looks at it objectively without my emotions being in the way when it comes to Iran and how I feel about the regime. And I understand just how ridiculous this was logically. And the reason why it is ridiculous is because the standard was deliberately set high because Israel wants this. This is Israel's war. They want this. They are actively trying to achieve the greater Israel region, and they're using us to do it. And so the standard was deliberately set impossibly high so that there was no real choice other than war. And when Israel thought that we weren't acting fast enough, they basically, after convincing us to occupy that region with our military, where we're now at much more of a risk of lives being lost, they basically forced our hand and they said, well, we're striking Iran. We're striking them tonight. So the Trump administration was basically cucked, and we had to strike them first, is how this played out. And now that all of that has unfolded, right? This article comes out. U.S. Embassy saying it can't evacuate Americans in Israel, sparking fury. The U.S. Embassy in Israel is saying it cannot evacuate Americans, and it sparked a wave of backlash on Tuesday. The State Department wrote in a statement on Tuesday that it is taking historic action to assist American citizens who wish to depart the Middle East. Why are they still there? And the reason why they're still there, once again, I think, is because Israel sped up the timeline of events here because they didn't like we weren't moving fast enough. So we couldn't properly prepare. One of the telltale signs of a coming strike, of a coming conflict, if we don't want to call it a war for the sake of Trump, a coming conflict, is we pull people out of these embassies, right? This happened last summer. We evacuated embassies before we struck Iran that time too. Why are they here this time? The article goes on. The department is facilitating charter flights from the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan for American citizens and will continue to secure additional capacity as security conditions allow, the statement reads. Commercial aviation options remain available in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Oman, and Egypt, and the department is actively helping American citizens book those tickets. So this should tell you a lot. The general unpreparedness of this Trump administration, how they probably were somewhat swindled, caught off guard, as well as, honestly, how Israel views us Americans. Because the reports that are coming in, essentially, Israel has bomb shelters set up, right? There's bomb shelters all over Israel. They're a small region. They're perpetually bombed. Their Iron Dome works great, but it only stops anywhere between 84 to 86% of total missiles launched. So, if it's a matter of 1,000 rockets being launched, it's like, there's anywhere between 140 and 160 missiles that could be landing in Israel and devastating them. So they have bunkers. They have bunkers and missile-proof whatever. Well, it doesn't seem like they're willing to shield Americans from that. That's for the Jews. That's for the Israelis. The American goys have already served their purpose. So what are they offering them? Well, they're basically saying you need to get out of this country if you can, and you need to take a commercial flight home then. Thanks. Really. What a great way to treat the Americans. The people that are funding your existence, basically. The people from the country that gave you your nation back, that sell you the weapons to do what you do, who then defend you after you do what you do and wage your wars for you. Their answer is, well, you need to leave Israel then, and you need to try to get to Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, or Egypt. And if you can make it there, then you need to take a commercial flight home, you goy cow bitch. So that's what's happening here. I believe they're talking about offering shuttles, buses, right? Buses to some of these countries when it's safe to. And so it's honestly, these are the kind of truths you want to look for, and this is the kind of stuff that's never obviously stated. They always say that when a war is being waged, that the truth is the first casualty. And that's halfway true. It's halfway true. And it's halfway true because our leaders will then gaslight us. And unfortunately, I have to tell you, as a Trump voter here and as a social and fiscal conservative man, this administration is gaslighting us. They've been gaslighting us, right? And so we are watching the truth become the first casualty. They are trying to tell us this is not about regime change, but they've killed the entire regime. They're trying to tell us it's not about the Iranian people, but they want us to celebrate the Iranian people's possible liberation. Not even guaranteed liberation, possible liberation, right? They were trying to tell us this is about their nuclear program, but that was supposedly destroyed last summer. So now they're trying to inform us, well, it's back, or they're working towards nuclear warheads again. Well, there's no evidence of that. So then they're trying to tell us it's about ballistic missiles. Those can't even reach America. But they can reach our European allies. Fuck them. Fuck Europe. They don't even want to shed their blood for this war. They've already promised that they're not even sending any troops in. They don't give a shit. And they're the ones at jeopardy, honestly. If they're even at jeopardy at all, they're the ones that are at jeopardy. Iran's in their backyard. I've stated this before. Where's NATO? Where's our allies? Europe, the UK, Israel, this should be their fight. We're halfway across the world. We should have nothing to do with this. Iran can't touch us, right? But this is all the gaslighting of this Trump administration to cover for the fact that at this point, it's very obvious, Israel has influenced this administration and has convinced us to go to war on their behalf once again. So this article goes on to say why it matters. The U.S. and Israel struck Iran in military operation dubbed Operation Epic Fury early Saturday morning after failed talks between the U.S. and Iran to address Iran's nuclear program. Iran declined to halt uranium enrichment, a major demand from the U.S. The strikes have now continued in the days since and killed the Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now, the embassy has wrote in a statement early Tuesday morning that it is not in a position at this time to evacuate or directly assist Americans in departing Israel. The statement noted that the Israeli Ministry of Tourism has begun operating shuttles to the Taba border crossing, but that it cannot make any recommendation for or against taking the shuttles. It went on to say, if you choose to avail yourself of this option to depart, the U.S. government cannot guarantee your safety. That's comforting. Imagine being an Israeli ambassador, and Israel just provokes this war. We strike Iran, they're striking back, and you go, oh my God, please protect me, Israel. And they go, no, our bunkers are for our own people because we're nationalists here. We should be nationalists here in America for this reason, by the way. In a way, I respect this. But no, our bunkers are for our people, not you, American goy scum. You can take the shuttles, but we aren't even recommending that. It might be very dangerous. If you do take the shuttles, though, there will be a commercial flight home. You can fly back home in coach, you scum. Thanks for your contributions, though. That's essentially how this article's reading. This is the truth right here, and it's important to point this stuff out, right? I would have never even been talking like this a year ago, but my eyes have been opened so much in the past year, and it's just once you see stuff, you can't unsee it anymore. By the way, please be sure to double tap your screen if you're watching on your phone right now. It likes the stream when you do. If you're not watching on your phone, find a way to like this stream. It's very important. Like the stream right now. Make yourself useful. It helps the stream do well in the algorithm. And be sure to subscribe also to American Advocates for more content like this if you're not already subscribed. And when you do, make sure post notifications are turned on. Otherwise, YouTube has changed everything. And if you subscribe, it doesn't matter. You'll never hear from me again. I'm going to take a look at some chats before I move on, but I want to get more. I want to get more onto what people are missing here when it comes to this, and a little bit more breaking news as well from today, it does seem like Iran has already moved on from Ali Khamenei's death, and they are appointing a new supreme leader. So I'm going to break that down a little bit here, and then dive into, again, what we're missing behind the scenes. Because, yes, the truth is the first casualty of war, but only the spoken truth. The observable truth becomes more evident during war. You just need to know what to look for. So I'm going to break that down in a little bit here. Take a look at some chats here. Glenn, you're probably Glenn, you might be busy in chat right now. Hopefully you haven't had to deport anybody, Glenn. All right, let's see what you guys are saying here. I agree with the person in the purple, and he literally told us he would do this, and he ran on this before the election, so this is no surprise. Who's the person in purple, Aaron? I'm not sure who you're talking about. Please don't turn on Trump, says Eddie. Trump is the Messiah. You have to be an irony account. You have to be a parody account, Eddie. That's pretty funny. Trump told us his stance about Iran before the elections. He didn't gaslight anyone. I voted for this. No, you didn't vote for this. Trump told us his stance was no new wars, and now he's changing the definition of what war is to make it seem like he hasn't violated a campaign promise. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, yeah, you can cite the one old tweet from Trump. He's never changed. He said all along back in 2013 that Iran could never have nuclear warheads, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he did say that. I think everybody collectively was kind of in agreement on that. Like I stated here, I'm not an Iran sympathizer. I'm not a Muslim sympathizer channel here. You know, if you're going to go down this path, like I'm currently on, to be honest with you right now, where I'm kind of researching more about Israel's tactics now, and my eyes are being more open to how they operate, I believe it is kind of important that you go down a more crusader type path first, so that you're balanced, you're well balanced, perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Because truthfully, the conclusion that you should come to is that entire region is cursed. And that's why I preach so heavily on the Monroe Doctrine on this channel, to the point of where if I get famous on this channel, me saying the Monroe Doctrine should probably turn into a drinking game, because I say it all the time, and it's because I believe in it. Us meddling in that region is of no benefit to us all ever, and our founding fathers knew that, as well as many prominent politicians in the 1800s, hence James Monroe creating the Monroe Doctrine, advising us that our foreign policy should be centered around the Western Hemisphere. So it's all a betrayal of that, truthfully, and they knew better, and it's very evident that they knew better when you look at how things are unfolding every time we interfere in that side of the world, which is an ocean away, 2 oceans away on each side of us. Trump told, oh yeah, I read that one already. You're not a Trump supporter, you got Trump derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome at this point is sycophantic support for an administration that no longer cares about you. I voted for Trump, and you know, he's just, it's over. I'm done with Trump at this point. It's not to say he won't do some good things in this administration still. He's got 3 years to go. So it won't all be a wash, I think. But in all honesty, I think it should be very clear to everybody with a working brain who's not part of the MAGA cult, right? I said MAGA's a coalition first and foremost, but it is becoming a cult for some people. And for those kind of people, they're just willing to graze in the grass like the cattle that they are and consume the propaganda that's fed to them and the rhetoric that's fed to them. Because it's more comfortable. It's not a comforting thought to think that Trump is no longer putting Americans first and breaking campaign promises. But he is, and he has been. And that's what people are missing. I'm going to break that down in a minute here. I just want to see some more chats here first. Iran was on the path to be able to touch us. Yeah, apparently, they've been on that path for what, 47 years now? I'm not buying it. This has nothing to do with Israel, says Nunya B. It literally has everything to do with Israel, honestly. Literally everything. Bibi Netanyahu was in the White House. He visited the White House 7 times, I think it is, in about 1 year. He lives part-time in the White House. Why do you think that is? No other world leader visits us that often. How many countries have been bombed? So far, I actually had an article pulled up that was showing that. There were actually some other Middle East countries that were catching some flack from Iran. I know Iraq got hit in 2 locations. Saudi Arabia, maybe. Qatar. I can't remember exactly, but a few. There's a few others. They're catching strays, some of these countries. Which, by the way, I know they're saying, oh, look how disgusting Iran is. They're bombing all these other countries that had nothing to do with this. But it's like, I gotta say it. Who started this? Who started this? I don't know. I don't know. NATO is an organization meant for mutual defense, not for an offensive war. Well, our Joshua is what this administration is claiming we're doing here is preemptive defense, right? That's what they're claiming. I don't buy it, but that is the claim. The claim is, well, Iran was trying to develop nuclear warheads. No evidence of that. Or they were saying that they had them. Definitely no evidence of that. But that's what they're saying. So it's a preemptive defensive strike is really what they're claiming it to be, right? They're also saying, well, they had ballistic missiles that could reach Europe. So we had to strike them because they wouldn't decommission their ballistic missiles. So they're framing it from a defensive scope. And so, yeah, NATO, listen, if we had a country near us here in America, if Mexico all of a sudden, the southern part of Mexico was just producing massive amounts of ballistic missiles, and it was deemed basically, well, they can reach America now and they're getting more hostile towards us, then I guess the framing of that would be defensive as well. What would you expect to happen then? We would be trying to reach out diplomatically at first, and then things would heat up, and we would probably strike them, I guess. So I view it from the lens of Europe. If they're the ones that are technically at risk of the ballistic missile range that Iran was capable of launching them at, then why wasn't Europe leading the charge on this? Maybe it's because Europe is just a little bit smarter than we are when it comes to Israel's provocation and their wars, and they're not willing to sacrifice their soldiers like we are, I guess. I don't know. And one of the things that's even more sickening, this was something I saw on X, I don't remember where, but I thought, yeah, what another sickening point. Trump gets in office, and Pete Hegseth cleans out the military of all the transgender idiots, all that, all the stupid scum, weirdos. And ensures basically that it's more, what's the demographic now? More American Christian men, right? Probably mostly white, of course, but Americans, Americans don't have to be white. American Christian men, just in time to send them possibly now over to the Middle East to die, right? Like what a horrible realization that was. So it's interesting. It's interesting. But yeah, NATO being defensive, well, that's not the excuse for NATO to stay out of this. NATO's just a bunch of pussy bitch boy countries, in all honesty. Granted, like I said, that maybe they're just smarter than us, but they are just a bunch of pansy asses, and you can't count on them for anything. And I even feel slightly vindicated with their actions lately. Spain and the UK denying us access to the bases. When I say we need to own Greenland outright, that's an example why. Because the semi-sovereignty based off of the friendly alliances is never reliable. So who's to say in 20 years the Arctic Circle's heating up, warfare's breaking out, and we have semi-sovereignty in Greenland, but Denmark decides, you know what? No, you can't. You're not allowed there anymore. That's why we need to own Greenland outright. That's a perfect example why. Because Spain, we have these examples now. Spain, like, fuck you. They just tell us no outright. No, you can't. You can't use it. You can't use the bases. UK, I think, is changing their mind now, but regardless, that's NATO for you. They don't like us. They never did. They're not our allies. We shouldn't even be a part of them. United States of Netanyahu. Yeah. Epstein files. Yeah. Well, I've been reading the Epstein files. That's actually been one of the leading factors and contributors of how my perspective on Israel's been changing. The Epstein files are loaded with eye-opening statements made sometimes by Jeffrey Epstein himself, most of the times by people emailing Jeffrey Epstein who are Jewish, as well as when you read the truth behind what Epstein Island was and who were the contributors to his island, his main backers, funders, etc., Leon Black, Les Wexner, etc. It's just like, it's very eye-opening. In memory of SW2 Robert Stedham. I don't know who that is. Takes a special kind of stupid to be liberal. Yes, it does. JD space indeed. Trump is a chess master. Yeah, right. Yeah. This is all 5D chess, guys. Trust me, this is all 5D chess. You all just can't see it. You just can't see it. It's 5D. I'm playing 5D chess. You guys can't see it. Trust me, I'm a genius. I'm not buying that shit anymore either. Why are you turning on Trump? Thumbs up and subscribed. Okay, yeah. Trump is Jesus. It's a disgrace to call Trump president. I don't know about that, but... Oh, hey, Keystone Liberty, what's up, man? How are you? Good to have you back in the chat, dude. Trump misses clean underwear. That's AI. That photo was AI edited. Let me catch up. The chat's super far ahead. Here we go. So we need to own Greenland so we control other countries. No, we need to own Greenland so we can control the world. We need Greenland because we want the Golden Dome set up. By the way, ask yourself this. Why are we focused on the Golden Dome being set up? Not that I'm against the idea of it, but why do you think that's happening? Could something big be on the horizon that we're not being told? Could it have anything to do with the fact that these Middle East tensions are now heating up once again? But we need Greenland for a geostrategical purpose. It creates a perfect defensive triangle. When it comes to Greenland, Alaska, and then I believe somewhere in Alabama, I think is the other point that they're going to use, and it's going to be for the Golden Dome, which will mimic Israel's Iron Dome and give us a better chance at not being utterly destroyed by missiles should that ever happen to us. Hopefully, Lord willing, it never does. But then on top of it, the Arctic Circle is kind of melting a little bit more, so sea routes are opening up, which is going to be the future of trade, and we want to control trade, right? So if we take back the Panama Canal, and then we own Greenland and Alaska, we pretty much control all northern Arctic trade, at least in the Western Hemisphere, which is good for us. That's what we want to be doing. And then third and finally, owning Greenland would allow us full access without needing to make deals for it when it comes to rare earth minerals. So those are the three reasons why. That's just what it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm a born-again Christian, Malcolm. But I'm a born-again Christian American nationalist. I believe in politics putting America first, and I believe in people putting God first, the Lord Jesus Christ, our Savior. He comes first in everything, and politicians should put America and Americans. It seems more important than ever to emphasize that. That's what be happening. Amen, says Jimmy O'Connor. Amen, brother. Hey, I don't know if you're a subscriber yet, Jimmy, but please be sure to subscribe if you're agreeing with me. Like the stream, double tap your phone. Definitely helps in the YouTube algorithm, which is not very friendly to me all the time because, YouTube hates when you say Jesus Christ and that you love Jesus. It hates that. It hates social and fiscal conservatives, which, really I'm only tolerated right now because, in some ways, because Trump's in office, I think, actually. And maybe because Elon bought X, so these other platforms have to behave a little bit when it comes to throttling and censoring. But I think it's an uphill battle sometimes. Now, what I want to move on to here, some of the breaking news today when it comes to regime change and what I've kind of been warning against here when it comes to Ali Khamenei and this regime change, right? I'm pointing out the fact that Iran was already liberated in the 50s and within one generation was under Iranian regime. It was under the Muslim regime again, right? And so they just give it up so quickly. And we've seen that firsthand with our American military in the Middle East as well. We spend years in some of these countries in the Middle East defending the people, liberating the people, training up their military for them, giving them good, solid American military training. And then we leave. And within weeks sometimes, their entire military surrenders and they're reoccupied and reconquered by the Muslims. This is their culture, and that's why regime change oftentimes is fruitless in that region and why I'm so against it. I don't think this will last here in Iran, and the breaking news that's come out today maybe indicates that. There's a catch, of course, to this, but this article from Mir.uk says, Iran war live as Ali Khamenei's son, Mojtaba, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, Mojtaba, Mojtaba Khamenei is named as new supreme leader. Ali Khamenei's son has been elected by Iran's Assembly of Experts as the country's next supreme leader, according to Iranian media. And so they're already moving forward, right? And really, this is the problem with regime change if this is a lasting appointment, right? We're not sure yet because the catch here is, and Trump, I think, actually even said this tonight, just a few hours ago, that we're still striking them. And I think Trump openly even said, we're going to just keep striking the new leaders, I guess, too. So who knows how long this guy is going to live. Perhaps this appointment has shortened his life expectancy now. I think he's in his mid-50s. So realistically, he should live another 20 years, but his life expectancy might shrink down to just a few weeks now. But regardless, they are moving forward. They're appointing a new supreme leader, and in this case, it's actually Ali Khamenei's son, which weirdly enough, this kind of father-son pass-down is actually typically shunned by Shiite Muslims. They actually frown upon this. but it's happening regardless. So it's kind of like a father-son succession, or almost like a monarchy of sorts is what's happening now. And the Shiite Muslim culture frowns upon this, but it is happening regardless. And so Mojtaba Khamenei has been elected as Iran's assembly. Sources told the outlet that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps put pressure on the assembly to appoint a successor after Ali Khamenei was killed in an Israeli strike Saturday. Israeli officials were expecting Mojtaba to step into his father's shoes, according to Israeli outlet news. So this guy, he's 56. He was sanctioned already by the United States in 2019. He's no friend to us, right? This guy's no friend to us. We just killed his father, and now he's going to be appointed as the supreme leader here. It's not going to get better then, right? And the bottom line is, when it comes to regime change, it has to be, in the words of Charlie Kirk, the late great Charlie Kirk, it cannot be top-down regime change. It has to be bottom-up. So what happens going forward now? Well, like I stated, there's a good chance this guy gets killed too. We'll just bomb the shit out of him as well, I guess, right? But Trump is now even openly stating that most of the leaders that he would have preferred to take Ali Khamenei's position are all dead. We've killed them too. So what's the end goal here? Right? Trump literally said that. That is a direct quote from Trump. All the world leaders, all the leaders in Iran that I would have liked to have seen take Ali Khamenei's position, they're dead. They're dead. They're gone. So who's taking over Iran then? This is a power vacuum, and this is the problem with regime change. And that's why I liked the comparison that I heard today about how it's like a half-court shot for us, maybe even a full-court shot. Meanwhile, by the way, like I said earlier, this is a slam dunk for Israel. They win no matter what. We've now destabilized the entire country, and really the only country left in the Middle East that could really stand up to Israel that was nearby them. And so this is a slam dunk for Israel, but it's a half-court shot for us. It might help us. It might work. But there's a much better chance that it doesn't, because that's just regime change. So if all the leaders Trump wanted to see take Ali Khamenei's place are dead, and now the son is taking over, and we're going to keep striking them, and Trump openly is basically stating, well, we're going to strike the new regime, it looks like, is what's happening. What's the end goal here? How are we expected to believe at this point in time, then, that this is not a regime change war, not a war, and it's only going to last 4 to 5 weeks at most? This is a massive country we're talking about, much bigger than the state of Texas, and full of millions, tens of millions of people total. So I'm just not seeing it. I'm not buying their gaslighting. And, you hate to hear this if you're MAGA. Even I hate to hear this as someone who no longer definitely doesn't identify as MAGA, but voted for Trump. This administration is gaslighting us. They are moving the goalposts continually, and they are lying. They're just lying. They're just kind of making it up as they go, it seems. And that's kind of evident here in their lack of preparedness for the outcomes here. We have Americans now fearing for their lives in Israel, and Israel doesn't care about them. And our own embassy has basically instructed them, well, find a way to leave the country, but that's dangerous, so we're not responsible if you leave the country and get killed. You're really on your own. Like, this is just a ridiculous situation, and it looks terrible. It really does look terrible. That was the final breaking news I wanted to get to. I'm going to look at a little bit more chats here, but then I want to get to the main point here, and that is what people are missing, and what's really going on here, and what people should be noticing. That's another thing I want to talk about. What people should be noticing, the conclusions you should be drawing here. So cover that in a second. Is this a forever war? Says Eddie. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, who knows? They don't want to call it a war, but it's like it's the same principle of what a forever war really is. If we're just content to strike a country every year and then call it a conflict instead of a war, what does that make it, Like, what does that even mean at that point? Oh, I totally agree, Jimmy O'Connor. Iran can free itself, and it should. It should. I would be thrilled for them if they did that, They were rising up originally without us, I guess, and that would have been great news, but it's up to them, right? We don't owe it to the rest of the world to do anything for these countries, truthfully. And America's already in a bad enough state for young people. I'm on the young end of the millennial spectrum, for instance, and I'm dealing with a housing market right now that is utterly absurd. I'm dealing with a cost of living crisis that I feel every day. I just bought 4 items at my grocery store. Soup, milk, what was the other thing? Soup, milk, Um, an energy drink for tomorrow, and then like this milk and energy drink, and then this like discounted like brownie. And dude, it's like I paid like almost $16 for that. Um, if you're a boomer and you're well insulated, you think the economy's doing great right now. You own 2 homes, perhaps. You have a 401k. You're invested in the stock market as a result. But if you're a young person, the economy sucks. Cost of living's terrible. Can't get a home. Affordability's ridiculous. And now we're going to war, and we're spending millions of dollars a day over there striking Iran to who knows what the goal is, because they keep moving the goalposts. Well, aren't you happy? This administration is now kind of like virtue signaling, like I'd expect liberals to do, right? They want you to feel like an asshole for speaking out against this because the Persians are liberated. Good for them. How does that help me? And am I selfish for asking that question? Like, no, I'm not. How does that help me? I go in the store and the prices are going up, but the Persians are liberated because we're spending tens of millions of dollars a day to strike Iran. So, that's it. I'm definitely voting conservative in the midterms now. You won my vote again. Good job. This is what I want to see. Just foreign policy overseas. Great job, Trump admin. That's it. You nailed it. Thank you for reminding me that the Persian people halfway across the world are now maybe liberated if we don't find a way to kill the son of Ali Khamenei now, who's now appointed the new supreme leader. So there's a small chance that we liberated the Persian people, and I need to just shut the fuck up now and never complain about this war, right? So that's the thing. And then it's like, well, it's a regime change, but it isn't. It's like, I'm just sick and tired of it. I really am. I'm just sick and tired of it. And the only people buying this kind of rhetoric are the boomers. It's the boomers. They literally do buy it all. And they say, well, Iran will take the war to us. Well, they haven't done that at all. Yeah, they've struck some of our stuff overseas. They have not taken the war to us. And they're trying to say, well, this isn't a war, but we've been at war with Iran technically for 47 years now, and it took the 47th president to liberate it. And the Jews love their numerology, so there's probably something there as well. But it took the 47th president to liberate us and destroy Iran after 47 years of war with Iran. But this is not a war. What is it? So hang on. I said I was going to look at more chats. Keystone Liberty says J.D. Vance has become Hubert Humphrey. You're very surface level. You need to dig more, says Draco. Lone Wolf and Cub. Hey, Lone Wolf and Cub. That's I'm actually not into anime, but even I know that that's a manga book, I think, right? One thing you're not seeing also is the government is an Islamic regime, and the Persian people don't want Islam ruling them anymore. Iran won't have people replenishing the ranks. Yeah, I don't know about that one because I already just shared the history of Iran. Like I said, you might just be tuning in now. Iran was liberated in the 50s and within one generation fell right back under a regime and under Muslim rule. And the Middle East is full of countries that are guilty of doing the same thing. We've tried as Americans to do it. It fails. It just never seems to work. They always find a way back to power. And that's because it's the Middle East. And in the Middle East, it's two prevalent cultures or religions or whatever you want to call it. And it's Islam and Judaism. And there's really no escaping it in that region. So this liberation of the Persian people, and I'll even add this, to be honest with you. Let's as a Christian, a super socially conservative Christian, when I look at the photos of the Iranian people, you see the women, and they're in scantily clad, I guess is the term I'll use as a conservative. They're dressed like kind of whorish. They're dressed like sluts. Is that a good thing in the long run for this kind of a liberation if it's going to lead to feminism and female empowerment? Look what that's done for our nation. And of course, the Muslims go way too far on the other extreme. I'll grant that, right? I think burqas should be banned in all first world countries. But what does liberation even mean? So, and truthfully, it's that complex to where that's why I say the Monroe Doctrine is so important for us to be embracing in this country. We should have nothing to do with the Middle East. We should have nothing to do even with NATO. We should be pulled out of that old world almost altogether, leaving nothing but our military bases because we're a hyperpower, and so we should maintain some sort of a hegemony in the world, military bases, a soldier's presence. But just because we have that there doesn't mean we ever need to strike first like we've been doing in Iran. We can and should, more often than not, just sit by and watch things unfold and intervene if we deem it necessary and beneficial to America. But for the most part, just do nothing. And who set that precedent for us? NATO, Europe. They're not doing anything, and they're very open about it. That should be us. We should be on that level of intelligence when it comes to American lives and our agenda. We can just watch over the region, but we don't need to be interfering all the time. So, in regards to Iran replenishing the ranks, I would tell you honestly, it seems more inevitable that that's what happens, because you can't really cite me too many examples historically of regime change ever working in the long run. Perhaps it works for a few years, and that's about it. The shelf life is usually pretty short on regime change in the Middle East, and in most countries for that matter. How would you fix the cost of living situation? Hard mode, it's not immigration. The cost of living situation on hard mode, it actually, hard mode, it's not immigration. I mean, I have to disagree with that to some extent anyway, of course. But of course, in the short and midterm, if we had mass deportations at the scale that I want, I can acknowledge that the GDP would suffer. When it comes to the cost of living situation, honestly, I would kind of do the opposite of what Trump's going to be doing when it comes to the Federal Reserve. I would be deliberately hiking the rates up and seeing where that leads us, because we got to do something when it comes to these prices. First of all, the tariffs are actually one of the keys for success, and most people can't see that. They can't acknowledge that. The tariffs are important, but they need to be implemented long term, and this administration has been a bit sloppy when it comes to their implementation. But the tariffs are important to balance the trade deficit, as well as, in truth, they need to stay implemented for years and years and years, so that we can draw back and reshore a lot of these manufacturers to our American lands. We need to bring back manufacturing. We need to immediately start working on our supply chains and our infrastructure, and it's a long process. That's the bottom line. There's no easy fix for this, because our economy has been abused by politicians now for 55 to 60 years. And that's the actual raw truth there. There is no 4-year fix. There's no one president that can fix this, in all honesty. It's going to have to be some sort of miraculous collective effort, in all honesty. But there's a lot of things that I would do. I'm not going to go into all of the... I should formulate a plan one day and just do a live stream on it. But that's not what the stream's about, so I'm not going to dive too deep into that. You do realize our revolution would have failed without France assisting us, Britain. Some revolutions need outside assistance. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about the Iranian Revolution, is what I'm trying to say. I'm an American, and I'm America first. I live in Washington State, Port Townsend, and grocery prices are higher than ever before. Yeah, my grocery prices have gone up too. Some of them, at least. And not because of tariffs. The beef's up because of tariffs. The coffee's up because of tariffs. I'm seeing prices of other things that have nothing to do with tariffs going up. It's not a war. It's just a military action. Oh, great. There's one of the gaslit ones. Buy things like rice and dry beans. It's a lot cheaper. Learning how to cook at home saves a lot of money too. Thanks for the boomer advice. I'm going to stop buying my $4 cup of coffee a day, and within 1 year, I'll own 2 homes. Iran is not Maduro. They will fight back. They are fighting back, Iran. Yeah, definitely. Well, we were told Venezuela was going to fight back too, and, they turned out to be a joke. I'm in support of what we did with Venezuela, for the record. I love what we did with Venezuela. I think we should do more of that on this Western Hemisphere, in all honesty. I just don't want us doing anything in the old world like that. I think it's a waste of time, blood, and money. Iran was a secular state in the 50s. We overthrew them because they wanted control of their own oil. Well, yeah. Oil politics will do it as well. 30s, 40s, 50s, into the 60s, whenever they were taken over by the Muslims. Iran used to be a great ally for the United States, yes. Well, I've seen the photos. I believe it's from the early 70s that I've seen photos where they were still liberated. So, I mean, you're not wrong, says Octavia Star. Appreciate that. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and like the stream if you haven't. Oh, you are a moron. I'm done. All right, farewell then. Yeah, until they nationalized. Every penny counts, says Tom. Yeah, every penny counts. I'm going to save that $4 coffee, and I'll own 2 homes. That's what the boomers told me growing up. Hey, 2009 Lifeguard here. Welcome to the stream, man. 2009 Lifeguard says it could be an online published thing, and you could just refer the idiots to your book. See, I fixed it. Yeah. Hypersonic rockets. Hypersonic rockets. Okay, let me move on here, guys. What is everyone missing? Well, first and foremost, what people are missing or people are refusing to acknowledge, right? And kind of the theme of the channel here for the past 2 days or 4 days now when it comes to this war. First and foremost, like I stated earlier, this is Israel's war. It benefits Israel the most. This is a half-court shot at best for us, but a slam dunk for Israel. Guaranteed win for them, and very, very big toss-up for us. More than likely will not end successfully for us when it comes to the everyday American. And one of the ways you can tell that this is Israel's war is based off the level of ambition and the mask-off moments that we've seen when it comes to their reactions to this. Within 12 hours of us striking Iran, they're already telling us that Turkey's a problem too. And that's a big problem for us because if we're hell-bent on fulfilling the Israeli agenda over there for them, Turkey's actually part of NATO, if I remember correctly. So that's more of an uphill battle for them. Meanwhile, on our own soil, we have fat fuckers like Senator Lindsey Graham, the senator of South Carolina. I'll get it right this time because I mistakenly said North Carolina the other stream, although a couple of streams ago I got it right. I said South Carolina. Bottom line, I don't live in either Carolina, so I don't know. But last time I said North Carolina, this guy had a fit in my chat. He's like, well, this clearly means you know nothing because I can't believe you would confuse Senator Lindsey Graham for being a North Carolinian senator when he's a South Carolinian one, you imbecile. South Carolina senator, Senator Lindsey Graham. This is what he's saying today, just 5 hours ago. Not only did Israel point us to Turkey after we struck Iran for them, immediately pointing us to Turkey and saying, hey, just so you're aware, Turkey's kind of a problem for us too. Now we have Lindsey Graham here, the war worshiper, the man who's senator for South Carolina, but finds himself living in Ukraine and Israel more than he does in his own home state, and representing Israelis, Jews, and Ukrainians more than he represents his own constituents and people. Here he is. I'm going to play this clip for you right here. It'll be audio. You can hear it. Of him begging Trump now to join the Israeli military in their fight in Lebanon.
And they support Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. One thing to President Trump, in case you're watching. In 1983, Ronald Reagan sent Marines and sailors to try to police and deal with the Lebanese civil war. They were at the end of the runway. Hezbollah attacked the Marine barracks, killed 220 Marines, 18 sailors, and wounded 100 others. Ronald Reagan, who I admire and love, withdrew and never did anything about it. So I'm calling on President Trump today. Join Israel to attack Hezbollah. Avenge the Marines. America never forgets. Those 220 Marines and 18 sailors' families, we want to go after the infrastructure that killed your loved ones. Their IRGC assets in Beirut as I speak. President Trump, come up with a new operation called Simplify. Fly with Israel and go after Hezbollah, who has American blood on its hands. Not only take the mothership of Iran down, also take the proxy of Hezbollah, settle the score, even the account.
Do you see why it's called Forever Wars? It's because it's profitable for the elites. There's warmongering neocon politicians that crave it, like Senator Lindsey Graham, who literally creams his pants at the thought of American soldiers giving their lives on behalf of Israel and its agenda. He did that when the Iran strikes were happening, by the way. He literally speaks giddy about war, and he just wants it to continue, and he always has, and there's more out there like him. War is a money transfer from the poor working class Americans to the banker elite class. It always is and always will be. And these forever wars continue because, well, for a whole host of different reasons. One of the main ones that I'm pointing out today, of course, is the greater Israel region agenda and what Israel wants. And I think what we're seeing now, in some regards, I almost think about it like I do the Liberal Party and how the Liberal Party honestly acted too quickly during COVID, believe it or not. And I made a COVID comparison last stream where I said, Trump saying 4 weeks to flatten Tehran reminds me of 14 days to flatten the curve and how much of a lie that turned out to be, turning into 2 years of tyrannical rule by the Biden regime where they tried to force Americans to take experimental jabs, wear 2 face diapers on their face, and even floated the idea of forcing us to show papers proving we were vaccinated in order to gain access to places of business so that we could buy food and other essentials. And that's eerily reminiscent of that, the four weeks to flatten Tehran thing, right? And the liberals really overshowed their hand a little bit too much during COVID, and I think it was very off-putting to a lot of Americans. The mask came off in a lot of ways. The real liberal unity was exposed, and it was exposed in the form of stand 6 feet apart, wear the face diaper, take the jabs, get the boosters, and prove that you're vaccinated in order to live your life. By the way, this is the new normal, right? And I think what they did was there was a bit of cockiness, but also a bit of urgency. They flooded our nation with illegal immigrants, desperately so under the Biden regime, keeping the borders open so that as many illegals could come in, all by design. They want the census count in 2030 to be drastically affected by that, and they want to turn America permanently blue. People saw right through this, and this is why Trump is in office, in all honesty, is because people determined liberals were out of control. We saw the transgender agenda speed up. We saw everything speed up during the Biden regime, and they did it at too quick of a pace, and it became too obvious, and people got wise to it. I view what's happening right now in the Middle East with Israel in the same light. And I view it that way because the polls for the youth in America, under 45 age, especially under 30, but again, even under the 45 age of voters, are becoming increasingly less supportive of Israel. And Israel definitely sees the writing on the wall when it comes to these polls. They know that people are learning more about them. They're learning more about their agenda. They're learning about how they influence our politics more. I certainly have been. I did a stream on Saturday talking about AIPAC and its super PAC and how collectively they have donated over $127 million in our 2024 campaign politics that year. 98% success rate, by the way. 98% of AIPAC funded candidates in 2024 won their elections. So is it any wonder we're seeing Israel first right now, right? And I tried to kind of just not ignore it last year, but when I started this channel last March, I started it while Trump was on a roll. Trump was on fire. He was literally doing what I voted for him to do. And so I actually initially started this channel to report on all the great stuff that was happening. And very quickly after starting this channel, you see the turn. For me, it actually started with Epstein and how he started calling the Epstein files a hoax. And that was when I realized that, Mossad was probably playing a part, Israel was probably playing a part. And then we got the Epstein files released, and I started reading them on a weekly basis and looking into more and more of them, looking directly at Jeffrey Epstein's emails. And it's all become pretty obvious at this point. So Israel's mask, much like the liberals' mask during the Biden regime, is coming off. And it's coming off very quickly because I think they realize that Trump is the boomer's last gasp, as Owen Schroyer so eloquently put it. He's the boomer's last gasp, and it's the boomers that eat this slop up. They believe in the Genesis 12:3, and they believe in a lot of the Judeo-Christian kind of nonsense. It's a psyop, really, Judeo-Christianity. I'm actually going to do sort of a sermon-like stream this Sunday exposing the term Judeo-Christianity and why it is so false and such a psyop, and truthfully, it's Luciferian speak. But the boomers eat it up, and they'll support it, but the young people don't. So they're on a time crunch now, Israel. And they have their greater Israel region agenda, and they want that fulfilled, and they feel like they need it fulfilled. They feel like they're destined to have it. And so now they're elevating everything at a faster pace, and it's becoming even more obvious. And that's what's happening here. This is what people are missing. But it's not going to end with Iran. This is going to be a long, drawn-out process, of course. It will take probably still decades for us to see the final results of what we're doing now and what we'll very likely continue doing in that region. But over the course of our lifetime, without a doubt, we will see probably drastic change in the Middle East, I think. Because I don't think Israel's going to be stopped. I think they're going to kind of have their way. And that kind of leads me into my next point here, in all honesty, when it comes to what everyone's missing and what people refuse to acknowledge. And truthfully, one of the important topics to discuss here is by helping Israel, our ally, granted, by helping them in that region achieve their goals, what are we doing? What are we actually doing when it comes to the long-term future of the Middle East? The answer is we're creating a superpower, essentially. If Israel gets control of that region, they form the greater Israel nation like they want, they are a superpower. They already have nuclear power, and they're going to expand. With that expansion will come more control of the region, control over trade in the region, and a greater access to resources. Is it wise, purely from a strategical standpoint? Israel people in chat right now, anti-Israel people in chat right now, regardless. ask yourself from a logical standpoint, is it ever in anybody's best interest to willingly create another superpower, a long-lasting superpower, what could be an indefinite superpower in the world? Is that ever a smart or wise idea? And the answer is no, because I wrote this down on my little planned little bullet point layout here of talking points. Friends today, enemies tomorrow. And throughout American history, you can actually look at plenty of examples where we're guilty of this. We're guilty of helping out what will possibly become future enemies. We did it with indigenous people. We gave them horses and guns. We thought, oh, these nice indigenous people, they taught us the three sisters rule when it comes to gardening. Plant your corns, plant your squash, bury the fish heads under it. You know, here's how to survive on the frontier here. Welcome to the, well, it wasn't America then, but all these natives are great. And it's horses, guns. All of a sudden, next thing you know, they're scalping us, they're shooting us, they're fighting us every step of the way, and sort of rightfully so. But we armed them. We just arm our enemies. And more recently, we've done it several times over again in the Middle East. And what you have to remember, honestly, is Israel is a foreign country. They're our ally on paper, and truthfully, Israel is our ally because they buy our alliance. Just because they're our ally today doesn't mean they'll always be our ally. What will Israel be like if it's a superpower? That's the question that really has to be asked here. What will they turn into, right? You never know. And you don't know until they get that status. Oftentimes, and it's compared this way oftentimes a lot, by the way. We're big brother, they're little brother, right? Iran calls them little Satan, we're great Satan. What happens oftentimes when the littler person gets power, they abuse it more. When a strong man gets power, he utilizes it correctly more often than not. When a weak man gets power, they tend to abuse it because they get high off of something they've never experienced before. And so I am weary of an Israel superpower forming in this world, and that is their goal. That's literally what they want. And objectively, you can never fault any country for wanting that. Objectively, like I argued, not intentionally on Iran's behalf earlier, but like I stated objectively, we were asking Iran to do very unreasonable things as a country. You cannot pursue nuclear power. You cannot build nuclear warheads. Well, of course any country would want those. Let's be honest. Any country would want those if they could achieve it. We were asking that. Rightfully so on our part, but they also rightfully so on their part as a country that's not our ally or friend. We're pursuing it. We then asked them, decommission your ballistic missiles, your primary source of defense and deterrence against countries around you like Israel. That's unreasonable. We then floated half of our Navy into their waters and then said, our Navy's here now. Why is your Navy a threat to us? Maybe because our Navy's there? I don't know. Unreasonable. And all of this is to say, it's reasonable for Iran to react the way that it did, in truth, objectively, setting your emotions aside, and it's reasonable for Israel to want what they want, objectively. But if you re-include the emotions back in, then you understand when it comes to Iran, I'm not sad Ali Khamenei's dead. Fuck him. I'm not a Muslim sympathizer. I don't think we should have done what we did. I think it's a waste of time, money, and blood, but here we are. And when it comes to Israel emotionally, when it comes to them even from a critical thinking standpoint, I look at the future and I go, will they always be our ally? And what will they be like as a superpower? Because you have to be aware that that is what is happening at a slower scale. This will take decades still, I think, but it could happen in our lifetime. And so, strategically speaking, objectively speaking, emotions aside, whether you're pro-Israel or anti-Israel, the bottom line is it is not smart to ever help any nation become a superpower because it's friends today, but it could be enemies tomorrow. And that's just something people are refusing to acknowledge or talk about, really, because it's not comfortable for them to. And there's varying different reasons on why people want to talk about this. Either they're, they subscribe more to the boomer belief that God blesses those that bless Israel. If you're like a Ted Cruz Republican, or you're just not that aware, you're not in full understanding of what's happening. But regardless, this is what I really wanted to point out here, because I think objectively it's fair to make the statements I'm making on this. And history kind of points to that. So I'll take a look at some chats before I move on to my second and final point here. You're nailing it, brother. Oh, thank you, John Boy. I appreciate you, man. I don't know if you're new here, but be sure to subscribe to American Advocates for more content like this if you haven't already. And when you do, please, if you're going to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit the bell icon under one of my videos so you're notified every time I go live. Because YouTube's changed it now. You subscribe and then they never recommend the people you're subscribed to. So it's kind of stupid nowadays, but appreciate that so much. Definitely like the stream. Double tap your screen if you're watching on your phone to like the stream as well. It helps the stream perform well in the algorithm. Draco says you claim you're a Christian, but equivocate America and Islam regime on a moral level. No, I don't actually. I just am looking at it from a strictly objective and strategical viewpoint. The Islam faith is literally demonic. Like Muslims, it's a demonic religion, Islam. So no, I simply don't. But truthfully, Judaism is actually eerily similar in a lot of ways to Islam. And it is also not a Christian religion, Judaism. What the Jews practice is not Christian. So, and I'm going to cover that this Sunday, which is why you should subscribe, because I'll be going over what I call the oxymoron psyop of Judeo-Christian, a term that should bother most Christians. So, yeah. Hey, Bluegrass, if you did your research, you'd know what that ballroom is really about. Define a superpower and name one other than America. Superpowers, let's see. Honestly, in my opinion, what a superpower should be defined as at this point is any country with nuclear power. That would be Russia, that would be China, it could be North Korea. Because nuclear power at the end of the day is like a kill switch. You can't treat those countries the same anymore. We're doing to Iran what we're doing right now, which is why I don't buy into the gaslighting hype of, they're developing nuclear warheads. Oh, well, if they, Mark Levin, the kook Mark Levin was telling people that Iran had nuclear missiles pointed at New York City. Like, it's absurd. We're treating Iran this way because they're not a nuclear power. If Iran had nuclear power already, meaning nuclear warheads, by the way, because of course they were developing nuclear power and they were enriching uranium. If they had nuclear warheads, then we wouldn't be able to treat them the same way. We'd be concerned. So that's what I consider a superpower. I think that's rightfully so. Marco Rubio said Israel told us what to do. I covered that, Bluegrass. I covered that yesterday. Oh my gosh, you're crazy, says Patty Risley. Well, Patty, that is a boomer woman's name, so I feel like I can already understand why you think I'm crazy. Dude, your imagination is wild. Israel a superpower from that region? Explain how. Well, gee, I don't know. Maybe just the fact that they already have nuclear warheads, and if they wind up taking all of the region that they want in that area, they're going to gain massive amounts of money from increase in resources like, I don't know, oil and all of the trade that runs through that region, and how they're now the broker of trade in that region. Come on. Try to develop a better lack of understanding, please. Trump is building a ballroom. Didn't you hear it? Yeah, I did hear that. What time Sunday, says Tom. Oh man, I'm such a lazy fucker when it comes to time commitments, but it's gonna be more in the afternoon. Sunday, when I go live on the weekend, it's usually more around like, anywhere between 1 and 3 p.m. But you can't say Judaism is also demonic. Who is your God, liar? Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. It's not the Jews' Lord and Savior. Christ is Lord. So, what is Judaism? Well, Judaism is a religion that believes only in the first 5 books of our Bible, the Pentateuch, the Torah, and they've also added their own written books into that mixture, like the Talmud, which, what is the book called? Gittin chapter 5, I think, something like that. They believe Yeshua, Jesus, is boiling in hellfire and excrement. And if you don't know what that word means, it means piss and shit. So, yeah, what do you think Judaism is, Sid Life, if that's their view of Jesus? You lost me by insulting Allah. Oh, well, fuck Allah. Allah's a phony-ass God. You can get the fuck out of this chat. Fuck Allah. Fuck him right. Fuck Allah. That is basically just Satan. That's a phony false God. I worship Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, God, not Allah. How is the Samson Protocol not borderline terrorist ideology? I'm looking into the Samson Protocol. I don't want to speak on it too much. I try not to talk about something that I haven't at least researched, but yeah. Preach. It started in 1994. Boomer generation works. Done and done. Thank you, John Boy. I appreciate that, man. The Israeli are God's chosen people, says Tom. Yeah, I don't. I understand where you're coming from on that, but I don't really agree with that all that much. Gentiles were grafted onto the tree. We are all God's chosen people, so long as we are saved. Judaism is paganism. Judaism is paganism. It does use the Bible, but it emphasizes too much of the cultural law, like Leviticus, which really isn't stuff that's meaningful nowadays. They're just very rigid about that. But when you disregard the New Testament, you can't really. You're denying the whole point, basically, of Christianity. Sorry about that, guys. Everybody still here? Hopefully everyone's still here. I can't even see. There we go. You guys can still hear me, but it's not showing my face anymore. I don't know why that is. My phone keeps falling off my stupid mount. Mark Twain says, Allah found Jesus and got saved. Who made Jesus? Nobody. I think something fell. You need a new camera mount. Yes, lifeguard, I know, all right? I need a new camera mount. Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm just a poor goyim. The cost of living is killing me, man. I have to choose food. I need to pay for food, not camera equipment. Let me see if I can... Trying to get this set up here. Rainbow flashes, says Tom. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. My camera's not, it's not broken on anything, but it's just not working. It's not showing my face. Your cam might be damaged. No, it's not. It literally isn't. Actually, I know what the problem is. When my phone fell, it turned on my camera app. All right, well, guess what? I'm going to finish this stream up. You guys are just going to have to listen. And I'm going to put my phone back on my mount, even though it doesn't even matter at this point. I can't even get my roads fixed around here. I rant about the roads all the time, John Boy, because that gave all our tax dollars to Israel. I rant about that all the time, dude. We have potholes in our roads the size of like sauropod dinosaur tracks, you know. But it's like, oh, let's make sure we're funding foreign wars. Let me get on to the final points I wanted to make here that people are kind of not thinking about right now. Most importantly, for Trump at least, Trump could face impeachments for this, is what I wanted to discuss. And this is something that not many people are thinking about, but there's a reason why this administration has moved on or is trying to. They're bouncing back and forth. They can't make up their minds on whether or not this is a war or not, but they're doing that out of like caution, because the bottom line is, as the executive, Trump absolutely has the power to strike countries without congressional approval, and he can also move the military at will to some degree. So he's kind of within his rights here so far, based off of the timeline of all of this. But what's kind of pushing the boundaries here is Trump's timeline that he's giving us. 4 to 5 weeks is really starting to push it, and what's happening in Iran is also kind of getting into some gray area here with regime change and what we're doing and the level that we're taking it to. And the Democrats are going to they're going to take advantage of this, especially if they win back the House in these midterms. They've made it very clear their goal is to impeach President Donald Trump. So that's something to watch for. I wrote down here 2 ways they're going to come at Trump for impeachment. First and foremost, the Venezuelan drug boats, because we all know they're throwing a hissy fit over that. They'll rehash that one. But if that one doesn't work, then they will probably cite this war, and they'll call it an illegal war. And they'll be doing all kinds of document pulls and subpoenas and investigations into it, and it will be weaponized by the Democrats. Is the war with Iran that we're doing right now illegal? The truth is, I'm really not sure yet, but it's going to be debated in accordance with the War Power Act, truthfully. So, and under that War Power Act, of course, by the way, He has the power to strike perceived enemies, and he can move troops where needed for up to 60 days by default. He can extend it by 30 days for a total of 90 if he deems it unavoidable and necessary to do so. But beyond that, without a doubt, he needs congressional approval. So his 4 to 5 week timeline even might save him as well, but I don't even have that much faith in this only lasting 4 to 5 weeks. They're already appointing Ali Khamenei's son as the new supreme leader, and Iran's a massive country full of a lot of people. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts dragging out longer, and then if he has to go to Congress for support, who knows how that turns out. And one of the things we've seen with Trump when it comes to the tariffs, too, is a great example. Trump kind of took shortcuts for those tariffs, which is why the Supreme Court struck down the avenue in which he was implementing them through the IEEPA laws, the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. It was an improper method of implementing the tariffs, and that's why it got struck down. They didn't rule against tariffs. They ruled against his method of implementing them. So he's already kind of taken shortcuts on other things, and he's kind of gone through loopholes and taken advantage of loopholes on other things. When it comes to Israel and their agenda, I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what he's doing right now, trying to just, work with Israel, our client, who, for whatever reason, runs the show for us. I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of overextending his power and doing things that he shouldn't be behind the scenes. This could be called into question if the Republicans lose in the midterms this year. And, with this war being waged, it's not looking good. And that's why I wanted to point this out as well when it comes to the Republicans in the midterms, to finalize everything here, what people should be focusing on. And truthfully, one of the things that people are ignoring here, or they're not really connecting the dots or talking about, but the bottom line here is the midterms are pretty much shot, in my opinion. I think Democrats are going to win. I think we might see a blue wave. Republicans are trying to redistrict. They're trying to redraw congressional lines in their states. That might help them. If you would have asked me about that this time last year, I would have said, yeah, that's going to be a massive red wave. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel called Midterms Will Be a Red Wave, because at the time, Trump was still doing great and the Republicans were redistricting. Now, Trump is going against everything he campaigned on, and then he's in favor of everything he campaigned against. And so it's not looking good. And that's to wrap it all up. That's what I wanted to finalize. That's the final statement I wanted to make here, in all honesty. We're not getting mass deportations. There's no border wall. The cost of living sucks. And we get all of these justifications from this Trump administration. We get, or from MAGA cheerleader channels as well. Midterms are coming, and, Alex Pretty and Renee Good were tragedies, and that's why mass deportations had to end, and it was just getting too hot. So Trump had to pull out of Minnesota, but he's still deporting the worst of the worst to make America safe again. And, the border wall is being built, but it's going to take a lot of time, and blah, blah, blah. And I know that was a promise from his first administration, and I know it's not even really built at all yet, but it's coming. And the cost of living is, you just need to work harder, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is, these are all things he campaigned on. We're not getting any of it. And it's always justified to us why. These are all things that benefit Americans. Now, and they let midterms interfere with mass deportations. That's the justification. Well, we need Republicans to win the House, and these deportations are getting too hot. It looks too bad. Republicans will get slaughtered, so we got to stop them. They didn't factor in midterms at all, though, midterm pressure when it comes to a new fucking war in Iran. And that's one of the ways I'm looking at this. And then I'm looking at the efficiency of it, which is undeniable. From a purely military standpoint, this has been pretty much what I would call a massive success so far. The regime change has been evident. It's already occurring, even if we don't like the result with Ali Khamenei's son being appointed as the supreme leader. We killed 14 of the Iranian regime top prominent figures in, 24 hours? We kidnapped Nicolas Maduro in 2 hours and brought him back to a New York State prison, and we toppled Venezuela and seized their oil. This administration is capable of taking decisive action, and they are capable of doing and accomplishing the things that they actually want. So when you see no more mass deportations from them, and when you see no border wall being built, And when you see people like Kilmar Abrego Garcia being allowed back into our country because this Trump DOJ is neutered and ran by an absolute incompetent bitch like Pam Bondi, and when you see the cost of living not getting any better, and when you see 50-year mortgages being tossed to us like friggin' cattle, we're just goy. You take the 50-year mortgages, you buy your fucking house and enslave yourself in debt for it, while we use your taxpayer dollars to fund new wars overseas that will never benefit you. And when you see your cost of living continually rising, just understand that's all being tolerated by this administration. They don't care. If they wanted to, they would continue with mass deportations. If they wanted to, a border wall would be built. If they wanted to, they would at least be trying to come up with solutions for a cost of living crisis. Instead, it's only the worst of the worst, a complete cop-out. Instead, it's no border wall. Who knows where that is? Who knows if that's even being built still? Instead, it's I think affordability crisis is a hoax. Instead, it's I think the Epstein files are a hoax. And then it's we're going to war with Iran. So that's what I wanted to point out, and that's what's important for people to understand here, because people are giving Trump just too much leniency when it comes to MAGA people, and you shouldn't. And you should be holding your politicians to a higher standard, especially if you vote for them. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe them your vote. They owe it to you to win your vote. And that's the question we're going to be facing when it comes to midterms this year and the GOP as a whole. Have they earned our vote? And if so, why? So that's going to end it for me. Sorry, the camera just went out there. I can't believe that. I think it, like I said, I think it's just because my phone fell and my camera app turned on, but ruined it. But I appreciate all you guys for tuning in and watching. Thank you so much for all the chats. Great job, Glenn, in the chat, I think, if you're still here. My moderator, shout out to you. Thanks again for everybody. Listen, be sure to subscribe to American Advocates if you haven't already, and like the stream if you haven't already. This will post as a video on my channel when I end it, and if you said something in the chat that I didn't read out loud and you wanted me to see, by all means, feel free to leave it as a comment under the video when it posts. And if it is a good comment that's worth responding to, I will respond to it and reply back to you guys. Thanks again. I'll be going live tomorrow. I was a little exhausted today. 2 days of 4 hours of sleep each day. I'm a little fried. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'll be live tomorrow. Like I said, be sure post notifications are turned on. Hit that bell icon when you subscribe so you're notified every single time I go live. The Weights Experience. My phone fell, man, and my camera app turned on, and now my camera's not working. Normally, I'm streaming with a camera on, though, I promise. All right, guys, listen, no matter what's happening, don't take the doomer pill, don't take the black pill. We can save this country. Glory to America. God bless the USA, and God bless all of you. Have a great evening. See you tomorrow.